Hello, I wanted to go ahead and give you a little tutorial on how to use Google Docs to really to do lab reports. I think one of the biggest issues kids are having is when they upload a Word document into Google Docs, they tend to lose their graphs and their tables. And that's understandable because Word and Google are very different. Word saves everything like a web page. So when you try to use Google Docs saves everything like a Word page. So if you try to use Word or Excel, Google Docs sort of understands it, but not really. So for text, maybe no big deal, but for Excel, if you're trying to do tables or graphs, it sort of gets messed up. And the other thing you guys may want to consider is change your mindset about how you do things now. I've told you before that I think the greatest thing about Google is that it automatically will save your stuff. And so if you start using it often and get more comfortable with it, I think pretty soon you'll be just as comfortable as you are with Word and Excel. You don't have to upload a document that loses its formatting. So here I have just a dummy test document that I made in Google Docs, and I'll just go ahead up here and name it dummy so I know it's not a real doc later. And I can type in a bunch of text if I want to and talk about different things. And so let's say that this is a lab report, and I'm going to go ahead and want to insert a graph or a table. Well, there are two ways I can do it. I think the easiest thing to do is to keep everything into Google Docs and not even deal with Word. And so some kids aren't too sure about how to do that. So what I did was I went over to Charts, which is the Google equivalent to Excel, and I have made a chart or a table, I guess, and I can add my grid lines or my borders. Okay, so I've got that here, which is one of the things kids sometimes complain about not being there. And so one thing I can do is they have this web clipboard feature. So I just highlight my table, I come up to edit, I do my web clipboard, I copy the cell range in my table, and basically what it does is takes a screenshot of it, and I can come over to my document and I can go edit and I can do web clipboard and then select my range, and it puts it in. And it looks pretty good, and I can still manipulate it and do the things that I would do to any sort of table, and no problem. I can, if I want to change it, I can either go back into charts and do it, or sometimes you can highlight different things in the Google Docs and come up to table, and you can manipulate things in the table. Okay, so let's say that I want to also put in a graph. Now I've made a graph in Google Charts, and I can show you how to do graphs later in another tutorial. It's not hard. But here I've got a basic table, a basic graph. And what I can do is I click on that, and up here there's a little pull down, and it says copy chart. So if I copy the chart and I come over to my document, I just do an edit and paste, and there is my graph. And so in my graph then, I can click on it and I can wrap the text. I can break the text around the graph, and I can just keep on rolling with what I have to say. So let's say I wanted to wrap the text. Now I'm done, and I can move this thing around wherever I want it, and the text will bend around the graph. Okay, so that would be the easiest thing to do if you want to stay inside of the Google format using Google Docs. You can do everything there that you can do in Excel. Now, if you really have your heart set on using Excel, it's just a little bit, not much more complicated, but a little bit. So what you can do is here in Excel, I've got a fake set of data. So again, I want to make sure that I have my chart set up the way I want it. So I'll make sure I've got my grid lines I'm going to use my grid line style. I'm going to make it a little heavy just to make sure. Okay. And I'm going to make sure that everything is the way I want it. Okay. So let's see. All right, so I've got all my grid lines. And so the easiest thing to do is just copy and come over to your Google Doc and paste it in. And so the biggest thing that happens is that you get a chart that looks like this without any grid lines. And so what you have to do then is highlight it. So highlight all of it. Come up to Table Properties, and then you come up to Table Border and select the border weight you want, and OK, and there are my grid lines there. And so I've got my table. Now the only reason this looks funny is because it's spread between two pages, so I'll just bump that down and there's my table. And of course, if you want to do a graph in Excel and you like Excel better, it's a little bit more labor intensive to do this. So you've got this picture. So you right click on the picture, on the graph, you do save as picture. It'll automatically save it as a PNG file. So you do just say where you're going to put it. So I'm going to put mine on my desktop. And then come back to your document in Google and then do insert an image, choose image, and then there's my image. Open it, and it puts it into the doc, and I may have to change the size of it. And I can do things again like wrap text and move this thing around where I want to move it. And the really cool thing, you don't want to do that. Put it inside your table, so I'll leave it there for now. So here you have an example how to do it two ways. I still think that just the way it looks best is if you do everything inside of Google Docs. And I didn't do things the way I could do them with my table and graph. I could add bells and whistles onto these, but I just didn't. But you could if you wanted to. And like I said, I'll do another tutorial on how to make a graph and a chart at another time. So I hope this is helpful, and I really urge you to create your lab reports and your documents in Google Docs instead of trying to upload a Word file. All right, see you later.